Thanks for participating, everybody. As Amanda just shared, my name's Caitlin. I live here in Brussels. We've been here since 2017. I live here with my husband, our 2 kids, and our German Shepherd. We return to Canada next summer, and we've been striving to live zero waste or low waste for 6 years now. Today, I would like to share with you our family's journey, the steps we've taken to reduce our carbon footprint, and the tips that, we used to get started, and hopefully there may be a tip or 2 that you can take away and integrate into your daily life to reduce the amount of waste that you send to landfill. It's a big topic, and it's something I'm very passionate about, and I can get quite excited and talk a lot. So I am going to do my best to keep my presentation to about 20, 25 minutes, and then we can have a discussion and I can answer any questions that you may have. Oops, there we go. So I grew up on Vancouver Island, and I don't know if it's just a part of who I am or if it's where I grew up, but I've always had a very strong appreciation and respect for nature. But, growing up in a Western society in North America, I think we're all very easily led down the garden path of consumerism. I think marketing is done in a way that we unconsciously buy in. And I've participated hugely in consumerism, and I actually find that that is the biggest struggle that I have in maintaining a low waste or zero waste lifestyle. Is we're bombarded with marketing. The algorithms are built to be smarter than we are, and so yeah, that is a challenge. In my 20s, when climate change became sort of a more focal point of the media, I started to rethink humanity's carbon footprint and how we were consuming. But I would say that my focus was pointed outward. I was looking at corporations, organizations, governments, and sort of questioning what they should be doing, what they weren't doing, and yeah, I was very much focused outwards, and I found that just fed that sense of hopelessness and eco-anxiety around, what we're doing to the planet, and it didn't serve me very well, and it sort of leads to those questions of, well, what I do as an individual really matter? And you hear a lot of that, like I'm just one person. Nothing I do actually will make any big significant change. So it's easy to focus outwards versus focusing inwards. Something shifted for me after I had kids, and I started to focus on my own carbon footprint and my own consumer choices. I don't know when that happened or what shifted. I think it is having kids and wanting to be the best example that I could be for my children. But yeah, we started to look at our personal consumption and to make better choices in the grocery store, choosing the unwrapped and unwashed fruits and vegetables, not choosing the prepared items and instead preparing them and washing them myself at home. We made our own cloth diapers. We started composting. But even though I felt like I was on the right path and making positive choices, I didn't see the results of what I was doing. My garbage can was still being dragged out every single week, and it was full. My recycle bin was only slightly less full, and I felt that I was always still searching for, something bigger that I could be doing. And, I found it to be discouraging to feel that I was on a certain path to make better choices, but to not be able to see the results from my efforts. In 2014, my husband deployed for 9 months, and very shortly after he left, I saw a video of this woman here on your screen. That's Thea Johnson, and she's the pioneer of the zero waste movement. And I absolutely related to her. We're the same age. She lives in an urban setting in a city in California. She has 2 kids, a husband, a dog, and she didn't compromise on her sense of self or style in order to become more sustainable. And at that point in time, her family had not put waste to curbside for 6 years. And I found her incredibly inspiring, and I went out and bought her book that week, and I was completely bought in. My aha moment with her was recognizing that it's actually easier to make a lifestyle shift when it's all-encompassing, when you apply it to every aspect of your life, versus trying to apply it to a small area of your life. Because when you're applying it to a small area of your life, it's hard to remember. You know, when I'm going around the grocery store, I'm still buying everything else packaged in plastic. I'm still, you know, consuming copious amounts of everything, but I'm trying to remember in the fruit and veg section that, right, I'm no longer going to buy plastic here, but I'm going to consume plastic everywhere else. So it's hard to remember what you're trying to do, and it's also hard to remain motivated and make a lifelong change because you don't see the benefit of the change you make. One of the comments I get from people is that zero waste is hard, or low waste is hard, it's expensive, it's time consuming. And what I would say to that is that, you know, any lifestyle change or habit that is worth doing requires effort and determination and to be tough with yourself. Whether it's, you know, training to run a marathon, going back to school when you've got kids, or later on in life, like changing your diet or your lifestyle to be more healthy or sustainable, it requires determination and an effort to make a long-lasting change. And it is intimidating to get started, but what I've learned is that the payoffs are incredibly rewarding. I was so motivated from an early stage to remain steadfast because I saw my waste shrink by half, by 3/4, to putting out a grocery store size bag within a couple months. I saw my recycling going down. My house was being decluttered, which brings a sense of calm. That sense of hopelessness and helplessness that I was feeling diminished because for the first time in my life, my actions were aligned with my values. And I think that's an intangible that, you know, we don't really consider. And the bonus takeaway was that we saved a huge amount of money. I looked at all of our finances from the year prior to starting, 2013, and then I looked at all of our finances from 2015, or maybe it was 2016, I can't remember. But in variable spending alone, we were saving 17%. And as the years went on, our lifestyle trickled into other areas of our life. We went from 2 cars to 1 car to no cars, and we shifted other aspects of our life. So the savings only increase. But when you're only applying the lifestyle change to a small aspect, so when you're still purchasing, you know, all of your consumer habits remain the same, but you're making a small change in one area, it is hard to remember. It can be more expensive because everything else remains the same, and you don't remain steadfast. So like I said, yeah, prior to 2014, we were putting out a large, big black garbage bag, I think a week, and an overflowing recycle bin. And when I started, I didn't know what was achievable. I gave myself a gold goal, a silver goal, and a bronze goal. And my goal was to achieve what Bea was achieving, but I didn't know if that was doable. But what I realized was within a year, it absolutely was. And so that's what I recommend for any family, is to define what their goals are for them, and to define their why and what zero waste or low waste means to you. What zero waste means to me has changed over the years. I tend to be an all or nothing person. If I don't have any chocolate, I'm good. If I have one chocolate, give me the box. And so for me, it was really important to try for zero waste. I don't necessarily think that's important for everybody. There is a great quote that is, we don't need a handful of people doing zero waste perfectly. We need millions of people doing zero waste imperfectly. And I say where our family has landed today is more of the 80-20 rule. We have strong habits in place. And I do think that, you know, getting stuck in on the goal of creating zero garbage or only creating a jar of garbage sort of takes away from what the actual goal should be, and that is to change humanity's carbon footprint. I think the movement of zero waste, I think they were very conscious in choosing the name, because for any movement to gain media attention, it has to be provocative. And there's not much of a story in living a low-waste lifestyle in terms of media attention, but living a zero-waste lifestyle in, you know, a consumer-based society is huge. So in the beginning, my goal was to send nothing to landfill, to vastly reduce our recycling, to increase our composting, but the whole while keeping in mind that it's an aspirational goal. Even when we were sending nothing to landfill, I think I understood that just because I personally wasn't putting waste to curbside, anything that I purchased created waste upstream and will create waste downstream. So I think something people don't recognize or remember is that recycling is actually a downgrading system and eventually leads to landfill. So if you recycle something, it can be recycled 1 time or 2 times or maybe even 3 times, but each time it's recycled into a lower grade product and eventually it becomes waste. So I firmly do not believe that recycling is the solution. I think changing our consumption habits is the solution, and trying to be cognizant of investing in products that are made of natural organic materials that can actually be composted and go back to earth completely. And so while defining zero waste is really important, understanding the reasons why are also incredibly important, because you won't remain steadfast if you don't have a solid why. For me, the why was safeguarding nature for future generations. Some statistics to share with you is that 20% of the population uses 80% of the world's resources. And that's not sustainable when we live on a planet with finite resources. Earth Overshoot Day, so that's a day on the calendar when we have consumed the resources available that year that nature has the ability to regenerate. So it's supply and demand. So by August, I think it's August 20th or something, it's supposed to be this year. By August 20th, we've consumed all the resources the planet has the ability to regenerate within this year, or next year, sorry, 2021. And then we're borrowing from future years, and we're doing this year over year over year. So you can paint the picture for yourself that we're continually taking from future years' resources. And that day comes earlier and earlier every year. Another thing that I think is surprising for most Canadians is that I think Canadians, we think we're not that bad when it comes to how we recycle or how we waste. And I think that's 2 reasons. We're a vast country with a small population. So we have the ability to just send our waste away and we don't think about it. The other reason is we're saddled up next to the United States where they are consumer crazed. And so we think we're not that bad by comparison. But what I think most people are surprised to know is that Canada is in the top 3 most wasteful nations globally. And I think we are so wasteful because we send stuff away and we don't think about it. The average Canadian creates 4 pounds of waste a day. And I think we volley for second or third place annually between us and Australia, right behind the United States. So there's a huge opportunity for Canada to do better. So approaching zero waste, we all know reduce, reuse, recycle. Bea Johnson has added refuse and rot, so enhance the 3 R's to 5 R's, and she recommends approaching them in order, and I would agree with that. So refuse is refusing everything you do not need. Refuse single-use products, refuse excess packaging, refuse freebies, you know, and be strict with yourself. You know, if you forget your coffee mug, force yourself to sit and stay and enjoy the coffee, or, you know, refuse yourself that coffee, and you'll remember to break. You'll change your habits much faster by being strict with yourself. Refusing freebies was a hard one for my husband, and I think it's a hard one for a lot of people because we don't connect the dots. But when you accept something that you don't really need, you're saying, please make more. A lot of stores will try and give people free totes as, you know, their efforts towards being more environmental. But, you know, they need to keep their costs down. And if you really look at those totes, you'll recognize that most of the time they're made with polyurethane, which is super plastic. And so I actually think that they are worse than the single-use plastic bags because they are going to take hundreds, if not thousands of years to actually biodegrade. So refuse yourself items you do not need, and then reduce what you do need. So as you're making a lifestyle change and you're going through your house and you're coming to the point of running out of something, ask yourself, is this product essential to my life? And if it is, then ask yourself, can I make it or can I find a more sustainable version? In the beginning, I tried to make everything, but in reality, I've come to terms with the fact that I'm not a maker, but there are so many refill stores available that, you know, I'm able to, you know, find what I need in a refillable version. A big sort of light bulb moment for me in terms of how I bought into marketing was stepping into my bathroom and looking in the shower and seeing that I had my own shampoo and conditioner, my own body wash, my husband had shampoo and body wash, my kids had their own body wash and shampoo, and, you know, recognizing that marketing had told me our family needed those things. Today, we now use a bar of soap, like shampoo bar, conditioner bar, and we buy package-free bar of soap for our body. And then I have a loofah that's made of, you know, organic material that can be composted. And that's all that's in our shower. And, you know, cream, where women's beauty products is another area. So I had eye cream, face cream, hand cream, body cream, and I was sort of like, wow, like I consumed all these things without even recognizing that I was doing so, without questioning if it was necessary. So, and, you know, in a lot of the refill stores that have popped up over the last few years, you can find refillable tooth powders, toothpaste, cleaning products, shampoos, dish soap, laundry soap. So many of the products we use in our house every day, we don't need to buy packaged. The next one is reuse. So buy secondhand where you can. You know, turn old sheets into handkerchiefs or into gift sacks. Invest in reusables over single-use items. One of the swaps our family made was we no longer purchase wrapping paper, and instead we use gift sacks, and they're reversible. So we have Christmas on one side, and we have birthday pattern on the other side. So yeah, I'm trying to see. Oh, and when you're, oh, never mind. I'm going to move on to recycle. So if you recall a statistic on the previous slide, I think it's something like 80% of what we send to landfill is actually recyclable. And I think that's because humans take the path of least resistance. And it's one of the things that I actually find frustrating is every municipality and cities, like they all have a different garbage can system and you don't know what goes where. And so I think people tend to just put it wherever. And in your home, I find we've got garbage cans in every room of the house, but we often have one compost bin and one area for recycling. And one of the easiest changes we made as a family was I got rid of all the garbage cans in the house except one. And right beside it was the compost. And right beside that, I had a questionables bin. So the questionables bin was items that I knew could be recycled, but I wasn't sure how. And over time, through, you know, getting more invested in this lifestyle, I often figured out how to recycle those items without even actually putting effort into it. And the questionables bin was put there so I didn't have to stress about it, you know, so I would put items in the questionables bin and I just wouldn't think about it and I wouldn't stress about it, and I thought, well, I'll get to it when I can. The other reason why it's important to remove the garbage cans from your house, except for one, is that when you're in the bathroom and you put on a new toilet paper roll, you know, if there isn't a recycle bin or a compost there, human nature is we're going to toss it in the garbage. Same with Kleenex. If you blow your nose or do whatever with it, you're going to put it in the garbage if there's only a garbage available. So it just increases your chances of making a better choice if you actually have to walk into the kitchen or wherever and dispose of what it is that you need to dispose of there. The last R is rot, and that is compost. A huge portion of what we send to landfill is also organic matter that can be composted. And there's so many different ways that we can compost. One argument that I hear from people is that, well, it's going to compost in landfill. And that's true to a certain extent, but it doesn't compost in a way that actually goes back to earth. For organic matter to compost in a way that, for it to turn back into earth, it needs oxygen. And when it's deprived of oxygen, it biodegrades in and actually produces a greenhouse gas, methane. And methane is 25 times more potent and dangerous than CO2. So, and the other point that I like to make is when we send organic matter to landfill, I look at that as a lost resource, because it's not like we're harvesting, you know, earth from landfills to put on farmer fields or gardens. Like it's a way. It's not usable. And oftentimes, especially here in Europe, anything that's sent to curbside is incinerated. So I look at that as it's a resource that's lost forever. So if you're able to compost, backyard compost, participate in a local compost program, that's the best route. Some simple swaps that you can make, I think I've touched on many of these, is, you know, most of us have invested in the reusable tote bags for grocery store, but I find a lot of times people are still using the single-use plastic bags to put your fruits and veg in. There are many, many options for having reusable versions of that, and same goes for the bulk section. I'm not advocating that anyone needs to rush out and buy anything. I think for the first 18 months, I was washing and drying my single-use plastic bags. My clothesline often was filled with plastic bags, and I would reuse them until they sprouted holes. So I'm certainly not advocating that people have to run out and buy a bunch of new stuff. And water bottles, you know, that's a very simple swap. Refuse yourself single-use plastic drink bottles. Refuse yourself the takeaway coffee cup. There's a misconception that they're recyclable because they're paper, and they're actually often lined with a wax that has plastic in it, so it's a mixed material, and mixed materials are the worst because they actually can't be recycled at all. And straws. There's been a big campaign about straws, and it's so easy when you order a drink to say, you know, no straw, pot of pie. And I think sometimes people think, well, my kid wants one. You know, I've heard that before. And, you know, and there's this notion that living zero waste or low waste, we're depriving our children. But by not changing our consumer habits, we're actually depriving them of far more. And then, as you move through your changes, just investigate the refill stores that are in your neighborhood. And, you know, you can make your own toothpaste, you can make your own deodorant, you can make your own cleaning products, but if that's not your jam, you can easily probably find a refill version close by you. So, I would say today, as I mentioned earlier, that our family, we focus more on the 80-20 rule. I no longer stress out when my husband is the Costco shopper. We don't shop at Costco anymore, but he's the one that loves Costco. But he will go to Koi Root, which is a store here, and he comes home with mustard in plastic or ketchup in plastic, and that used to stress me out. But, you know, I now try and focus on the bigger picture. And I actually think that that's more important. So, yeah, that's my presentation. And if you guys have any questions, give her.